everyone this morning to today's class. And in today's class, we're looking at respiratory. The guy in the taxi asked me what I'm talking about, and I said respiratory, and he didn't know what I was talking about. Then I realised you say respiratory. Respiratory. Sounds like something strange. And after the break, we're going to look at child nutrition. And everyone who was a child should hear this, because the way we were fed as a child has a lot to do with what's happening with us today. So it can explain much, and it can also show us how to feed the next generation. And the next generation are tomorrow's leaders. So it's a very important lecture. And then the last lecture, I think, is the most exciting, the most popular, and that is natural remedies. So we've already got our table on the front where we're going to demonstrate some natural remedies. So that's going to be interesting with my one hand, but we'll work it out. I might even get a friend to do some manual for me while I talk. But before we begin, let us ask God to teach us today. Father in heaven, thank you that we can come to you. Thank you that you are the greatest teacher this world has ever known. And so we come to you asking for your wisdom, your guidance, and your teaching skills this morning. And we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So I'll just say the way I say it. Respiratory. Respiratory takes into consideration where the breath goes in, of course, which is into the sinus area. And a lot of people have sinus problems. A lot of people have ear problems. And they're all connected by eustachian tubes. So your eustachian tubes are what connect the ears, the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. So they are all connected. So a lot of people don't realise that their sinus problems can be affecting their hearing because it's all there. And there's a condition called tinnitus, or vertigo, ringing in the ears. So people say to me, what can you do for that? Well, it's often you have to go way back. You go way back. And anyone who's listened to very, very loud rock music, so we'll be in the traffic and there'll be a car and we'll be just about bouncing. You know what I think? I hear that tinnitus in another 10 years. See that? Very loud noise, they damage the fine mechanisms in the ear. And another thing that can cause it is jackhammers, working with jackhammers, that really, really loud noise. In the war, people have been exposed to bombs going off, very, very loud guns. That is all damaging the fine mechanisms in the ear. I have 3 sons, and they think they're invisible. And so often when, especially young men, they're, I don't need earmuffs, that's for wimps. You know, well, you do. And you'll suffer in years to come. So we had one guy, his name's Jeff. And in Australia, you know, an average bushy guy, we'd call him a bloke. You've heard of that term, bloke. Okay, so this is a real rough bloke, but a real nice guy. And he came to do fencing for us because he's sort of what we call a jack of all trades. And when he first came in, he said, you're nice people and I'm happy to help you, but I don't want any of your religion. And we said, certainly, choice is yours. But something happened that changed things. So every afternoon we have a little steam sauna down by the creek, it's wood fired. And so we always have a staff member manning it, you know, one of the guys putting the wood in, keeping the steam coming into the little hut. And our guy was away for 2 days, so we got Jeff to do it. And our guy that usually does it, Howard, he has a book there, it's called Desire of Ages, and it's a book on the life of Jesus. Now I think the cows have had a nibble and the brains have been on it, it's a pretty sad looking book. So Jeff's there, he's got nothing to do, so he picks up the book. Now, it takes a while to read this book because it's, you know, it's very involved. He read it in a week and he came to the office and he said to Michael, he said, oh, I'm sorry that I read that book, but he says, change the life. So I want to become a Christian. It's just incredible, the turnaround. With that turnaround, there was also a turnaround in his life. He stopped drinking, he stopped smoking, he stopped caffeine, he stopped meat, he started to become a plant-based diet. And he told me that he's always had tinnitus, really, really bad ringing in the ears. And he said when he changed his diet, he said it dropped by 50%. Isn't that incredible? You see, the food that he was eating, his body was reacting a little bit to it, as it does with many poisons, and it was creating a lot of excess mucus. So that excess mucus was compounding the problem. The damage had been done, but now it comes, because he worked in the mines for many years, you know, they have explosions and jackhammers, and he just thought he was going to have to live with it. And also his arms, you know, using a jackhammer, you know, he got to the point where he could hardly use them. He changed his diet, everything changed. He said, I can't believe how I can use my arms again now, because he was, I think he was late 50s. He said, but the ringing in the ears, he said, it's dropped by 50%. And a lot of people don't realise that many foods they're eating, even not alcohol and caffeine, but dairy. You see, cow's milk's very good milk for baby cows. And if you give a newborn calf the milk that's in the supermarket, do you know that they'll die? Because what they do to the milk, they pasteurise it, they homogenise it, it kills all the vitamin C. And that newborn calf needs that vitamin C, because they're used to the raw milk made straight from mama cow. And I was telling that to my taxi driver in Mississippi this morning, he said, and then he said, you know, my grandmother lived till she was 103. Do you know that the only milk she drank was the milk out of the cow? I said, yeah, that's a lot different. And he said, do you know that the eggs she ate were from the chickens, and the vegetables she ate were from the... And he said, when she ate meat, it was just when they killed the cow. And that was just every now and then. He says, not every day like today. I said, that's right. So the wheels started turning in my taxi drivers. Because there's always a reason. So dairy, wheat, the hybridised wheat of today gets a reaction in the body. Oats are very high in an inflammatory marker called lectins. Peanuts, commonly contaminated with mold and the refined sugar, and that'll just feed every negative thing in the body, high acid. So when he stopped those foods, he reduced the tinnitus by 50% because the mucus in the eustachian tubes ran cut right down. You see, what is that mucus? That mucus is something that the body creates to protect us. So when there's excess mucus in the eustachian tubes, then we have a look at why. Because remember, the curse causeless shall not come. There's always a reason. Why? Why is there excess mucus in the eustachian tubes? So the reasons why there's excess mucus in the eustachian tubes, and this also goes throat and lungs as well. Well, there's excess mucus when we've got a cold, isn't it? No wonder, because remember what the cold is?
Cleaning.
It's a house clean. It's a house clean. So why is there excess mucus in these eustachian tubes? And we know there is because the blowing the nose, is that called the snort, is that right? And the swallow, and the coughing up from the chest. And remember our little tonsils, coughing up from the tonsils. Remember what your tonsils are? They're part of your lymphatic system, and they're throwing out waste. That's what it is, it's throwing out waste. You can almost look at mucus like the soap, doing the clean. So why would there be excess mucus? Number one is allergies. Because whenever there's an allergies, the mucus is produced. So this could be an allergy or it could be a reaction to chemicals. So if someone's breathing in chemicals, they will find that excess mucus is produced to protect those delicate little membranes that line our eustachian tubes. Mould. Mould can be another reason. A lady said to me, my little boy, we're taking him to hospital 3 times a week through the winter with a severe asthma attack. So I put my detective hat on to find out why. And these people are plant-based, they eat really well, but why? So I said, where does the little boy sleep? On the bottom bunk. Where's the bedroom? It's in the, for you to be northern side. Your northern side is your southern side is sunny, isn't it? We're in Australia, our northern side's sunny, so it's on the northern sun side. And in the summer, because the arc of the sun is so great that you can get sun in the morning and the afternoon, but in the winter, with the arc being smaller, that back room got no sun at all. I said, what's the floor like? She said, well, it's cement on the floor. I said, is there any rain damage? She said, actually, when we get a lot of rain, she said, the water comes in one corner. I said, what's the mattress like on the next bunk? Oh, she said, got a bit of water damage a little while ago, but, we did put it down in the sun for a while. Well, you can't get rid of mould. If mould is in a cloth, if it's in a mattress, you get rid of that mattress. So what's happening, every time the water in the top bunk's moving, what's floating down is this mould waste. I said, now we know why. I said, it's because they live out in the country. I said, as soon as you get off the phone to me, get the kids, get that mattress, take it way out the paddock and put a mulch to it, please. Because it's killing that little boy. The boy up the top's fine because he's way up the top. He's breathing in fresh air all night. But the little one underneath, I think was about 8 at the time. And I said, hey, put him to sleep in the lounge room because the lounge room was a sunny room. Sun is a wonderful purifier of the air. Let the sun come into the house. Might be a bit hard when it's 100 degrees outside. So there's a little bit of common sense there. So sometimes this excess mucus can be exposure to mould, or it can be the food. And again, the most common foods, I'm putting the most common. Some people have soy allergies. Do you know there was no allergies to soy until they genetically modified the soy? But some people now even have an allergy to the organic non-GMO soybean. If you have an allergy, don't touch it. So the most common foods are the dairy, very well known to be high mucus forming food. The hybridised wheat, I'm not talking about the ancient grains. The ancient grains like spelt, kamut, emmer, they have not been hybridised. Enkenhoorn, oats. If a person does not have a health problem and they enjoy their oats for breakfast, go ahead. You're the guy. But if there's any respiratory problems at all, they really have to be eliminated. Peanuts, of course the peanuts commonly contaminated with mould. If someone loves their peanut butter, they've got nice strong hydrochloric acid, it's quite possible that it's dealing with it. But we're talking about overcoming problems here. And refined sugar, there's no need to use refined sugar today. We've got honey, we've got maple syrup, we've got palm or coconut sugar, and that's just the crystallised nectar from the palm flower. So it's not hard to get alternatives. People say, well, what milk do you drink, Barbara? I say, I'm weaned, I eat food, I don't drink milk. Milk is for babies. So where do people use milk? In their coffee and tea. Well, I don't have coffee and tea. In their cereal. Well, I don't need cereal. What do you have for breakfast? Well, this morning I had fruit and then I had sourdough, simple needs toast, with olive oil and avocado and Kelvin salt on top. And while I was eating my breakfast, so I take all my bits and pieces down, they have some nice fruit that I partake of because it's free breakfast in the hotel. A lady came up to me and she said, I just want to thank you. You've changed my life. Oh, that's so nice. It was one of the, I couldn't believe it when you walked through that. Very nice. So that's what I had for breakfast. So it's important to eat what you love. It's important what goes taste buds for a reason. So if you like a porridge, and I do a porridge when my grandchildren come because they love porridge, I do millet. And you can do millet very nicely in the crock pot overnight if you don't have time in the morning. I'm an early riser, so I can get it on early. But remember, millet, you need 4 cups of water to 1 cup of the dry grain. It takes a lot of water. Sometimes I do rice millet, sometimes I do quinoa. So there's great alternatives to the wheat and to the oats. And if you do want a milk, look at the supermarket today. You've got organic soy, almond, all sorts. And you can also do, especially for a peanut butter, there's almond butter, cashew butter. If you come to Australia, you can taste macadamia butter. That's very nice. And again, your alternative. So it's not hard to do that. And that's why the detective hat has to be put on. Whenever someone's sick, there's a formula. And one of the first health books I read was The Ministry of Healing by Ellen White. It was written in the early 1900s, but I just love that book. She gives the basic principles. And she says, in case of sickness, the cause should be ascertained. And that is rare. Isn't that true? How many people are just given a name? What does that do? Does it tell you the cause or the cure? No, you've just got a name now. Ascertain the cause. Number 2, unhealthful conditions changed. Get out of the mouldy house. If you're in a job where you're breathing in chemicals all day, it's time to get another job. Unhealthful conditions changed. 3, wrong habits corrected. Maybe it's time to go to bed earlier, time to drink more water, time to implement an exercise program, time to turn the technology off when the sun goes down. Number 4, and then nature is to be assisted in her efforts to expel impurities and re-establish right conditions back in the system. And that's where the natural remedies come into it, which we'll be looking at this morning. So that's the formula. That's what you use whenever there's sickness. So I'd like to give you my story. When I was a little girl, it's my brother, me, and then 3 girls. So I'm the eldest daughter. And my father had asthma. And as the eldest daughter, I used to bring him this puffer. It was this rubber bowl with glass tubing. This is late 50s, early 60s, had a little cork in it, and he poured medicine into it. So I remember that because that's what I did. I brought him this puffer. And then my little sister was born. I was only 8 when she was born, and she had severe eczema. And then by the time she was 1, the eczema eased and she got very severe asthma. So as the eldest daughter, and I just loved my baby sister, I would sit on the bed, I would sing to her, I would read her stories. And this is, when she's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I remember the ambulance coming to the house and taking her away. Severe physiological asthma. So you see what we've got here? We've got a genetic link. But remember, genetics may learn the gun, but it is lifestyle that pulls the trigger. My father finally conquered his asthma at the age of 50 when he stopped dairying. When he stopped dairying, he stopped having his asthma attacks. My sister, she conquered her asthma at the age of 40 when she finally stopped these foods. She stopped dairying for a while, but she found it hard to get off the weight. So imagine my dismay when my 5th child, at the age of 12 months of age, was in severe breathing distress. In fact, all the little remedies that I used to do on the children seemed to have no effect on Peter. And I feared for his life, because every breath his nostrils would flare, his body would just spasm from his ears to his hips. every breath. Oh, very scary, very scary. So we rushed him into the hospital. And I remember seeing the doctor's face, and I knew my child was very, very ill. And they would give him Ventolin. And Ventolin is a drug that opens the bronchioles. Because this is what happens in an asthma attack. The bronchioles swell and the air can't get in and out. And I used to watch my little boy. It was scary. So we took him to hospital about 3 times. Whenever we get a cold, within 24 hours, severe breathing distress. And that breathing distress could last for 24 hours. Now it's very, very hard. Then I read a newspaper article that said Ventolin reduces lung capacity. The very drug they give him to open those bronchioles, called the bronchodilator, dilating or opening the bronchioles, is reducing his lung capacity. So I was very challenged by that. That's why I know what it's like to have a sick child and you don't know what to do. And when I took him to hospital, you just relaxed because now you're in their care, but Peter did not really improve much. In fact, I noted what was best if I just held him. I just held him and kept him calm. If he cried or got upset, it would get worse. And I slept with my babies every night, so always in the crook of my arm. I just got more sleep when I slept with my babies. So when I read this, that was a real challenge. So I decided to go to a naturopath. So I went to the naturopath, and Peter was about 14 months old by this stage. And he said, "This is a sick boy." And he said, "Whatever you do, do not vaccinate this child. You could possibly lose him." I'm not at that stage. I didn't know much about vaccine, but I was delaying it because I didn't like it, but I really did not know what to do. So Peter was born 83, so it's for 84. And he told me some things to do. He said, whenever Peter gets a cold, don't give him any food. He said something like watermelon. Now, Peter was still fully breastfed, and as you'll see in my next lecture, I didn't introduce food to my babies till they were into their second year, the very earliest. So that was easy. But he used to have little nibbles, when we ate our food. So what I did was I put Peter in the bedroom with one child who read him stories, and we ate. And then when we'd finished, we'd wash up and put everything away, and then the child was reading the story, another child would go and read stories. So, because if he saw us eating and he wanted bits, then he'd get upset. And, so that's what we did. And the naturopath wanted me to give him an enema. He said, if you give him an enema, just the release from his bowels will ease the chest. I'd never heard of such a thing. How do you give a 14-month-old an enema? So I knew I had to distract him. And his elder brother James, who was about 8 years older, because I had 2 girls between James and Peter. He had a submarine and had a motor on it with a repeller. You put a battery in there. Peter just loved this, but Peter was never allowed to touch it. Peter could sit on the edge of the water or next to the bath and watch. That's all Peter could do. So I said to James, can we get that propeller motor and give it to Peter? And just as I'm about to insert it, turn it on, and the propeller will go. You always ask permission, because I knew that for James this was a special toy, and he agreed. And it's always good to bring the children in on, because they're affected when you're a very sick child. We're all going to help Peter. And so that's what we did. Laid Peter down, gave him the little motor, and Peter was just shocked because he's never allowed to touch it. And just as I'm about to insert, because I just had him lying down, just as I'm about to insert the little catheter tip, we put the propeller on. I could have done anything to him. He's in seventh heaven with this propeller going around. I'm not looking at James, I can't believe he could even touch it. Anyway, put the little enema in, and I let about So he's about 14 months old, probably about 3/4 of a cup of water, just gravity takes it in, and then I took the little catheter out, and then I just rubbed his stomach for a while, probably about 10 minutes, and of course he's just, and then I sat him on the little pot, and it came away. Then we turned the propeller off, and there was no fuss, he was just very happy that he could even hold it for a bit. So that's how we did it. And it's an illustration of the show. You never force children. You don't get a whole lot of people to hold them down, you know. And again, remember he's got asthma, and so I don't think you should indulge children when they're sick. You know, a lot of people do that, give them anything they want to keep them quiet. No. There's within reason. That's why we kept him in the bedroom while we ate. And that's why we diverted him with the little propeller. It's important when you're treating children not to cause them trauma or stress. So you've got to work with them and you know what works. When I started to do that, just give him the watermelon and just not any other food, and when I gave him the enema, the breathing distress went from 24 hours down to 5 hours. I couldn't believe it. I thought, what a difference. So we actually never took him to the hospital again because we now knew what to do. And we also, the naturopath got me to give him this mix 3 times a day. It was about 1/3 of a cup of slippery elm. Now slippery elm is the powder bark of the slippery elm tree, and slippery elm just coats and soothes the lining of the throat. So 1/3 of a cup of slippery elm, that would be 1/3 of a cup of water, and you'd probably be looking at about 1/3 of a teaspoon of the powder mixed in hot water. And with that, there was a 1/2 teaspoon of licorice powder. And licorice, you find every cough mixture you find in the health food shop will have licorice powder in it, or licorice. And licorice directly affects the lungs. It's what's called an expectorant. So I gave him that 3 times a day. And it's quite nice. Slippery elm, you know, it's very mild, and licorice is lightly sweet. And remember, I did not give my children any sugar, so, you know, he thought it was quite great. Now, there was another herb in my herb book I found. This is called plantain. It's also called ribwort because the plant has ribs on it, ribwort. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you've got broadleaf plantain, which has got a leaf like that, and there are the ribs. And then you've got narrow leaf plantain, and it's also got the ribs there. It's just, you see it everywhere. I'm sure we can go for a walk, although it's a bit dry at the moment. We won't walk today because it's raining. But I had read that is an expectorant, so it has also an effect on the lungs. And what herbs do is they little by little, they work on that part of the body. And as soon as he got a cold, I would make up a tea of that. And I would put lots of leaves into the pot, I'd fill it with water, and as soon as it began to boil, I'd turn it off and I'd put the lid on. In fact, I put so many leaves in it was really black. And then I squeeze lemon in, put a little bit of honey, and he would drink that. He would drink that all through the day. In fact, this is coming to 18 months, June, he's drinking it. Whenever he got a cold, I'd immediately make up the tea. Whenever he got a cold, as he got older, we just fed him very lightly, very lightly. Now what happened is, remember, every time we got a cold, within 24 hours he'd go into breathing distress. So after first doing the enema, well, the other thing we did was hot and colds on the chest. So again, we had all the kids around, and one would have books, and the other would read books, and we'd do the hot for 3 minutes, and then we take that off, and we do the ice cold. We get one kid to do backflips and, you know, laugh and all that sort of stuff. You've got to work with the children. And I do that 3 times, and that certainly would also help. Every time we got a cold, the breathing distress got less. 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour. And the naturopath said to me, everything you're doing to Peter, he'll be as strong as an ox. Remember those words. When I was 2.5, I went into labour with my 6th child. And 24 hours before I went into labour, Peter got a cold. And this is what tries to surface, fear. What am I going to do if I'm in labour and Peter has to breathe with us? But you know what kids are like when they're sick? They don't want mum. God said in 2 Timothy 1 verse 7, I've not given you the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. I had to trust, I had faith in God. I've done everything I possibly can. It's hard work. So much easier to just do the tablet or puff, but it was hard work. And that's why Ellen says in the book Ministry of Healing, she said, the use of natural remedies requires an amount of care and effort that many are not prepared to give. But she says, in the end, it will be found that nature untravelled or uninterfered with does her work wisely and well. So I gave birth to my 6th child. I squatted all through pregnancy. It was quite a quick birth, with the baby flew out of me with the bag intact.
Wow.
Squatting does a wonderful thing. Peter never got breathing distress, and he never has again. Now, he was diagnosed with severe physiological asthma. No wonder. Look at my little sister. Look at my father. My father conquered it at the age of 50 when he stopped dairy. My sister conquered it at the age of 40. This is years of taking the puffer and sometimes having to go to hospital because the breathing distress is so severe. Peter never got another asthma attack after the age of 2.5. And if you look at Peter today, yeah, he looks like a bodybuilder. He's big. He does not look like an asthmatic.
One question for you. Belinda wants to know how long did he eat watermelon?
Well, he only had breathing distress for 24 hours. So 24 hours. And when he had breathing distress for 5 hours, it's sometimes just a couple of days. Now remember, he's also breastfed. And even a child, even an adult, they can go on watermelon for a couple of days. Doesn't hurt. We're not looking at weeks and weeks and weeks. Yes?
Is it a third cup slippery elm, or is it a third of a teaspoon in water, or is it both?
That's right. It's a third of a cup of the slippery elm. This was the drink. So a third of a teaspoon of the slippery elm into a third of a cup of hot water. If you mix it very quickly, it goes fairly smooth. If you don't mix it quickly, it'll go lumpy, but we used to laugh that Peter liked it lumpy. Most people don't, yes.
For licorice powder, I heard that with cardiac issues, that could
With what?
cardiac issues,
Cardiac issues?
possibly interfere.
I have not heard that. I have not heard that licorice can interfere with cardiac issues, but many medications can, and you hardly ever hear that mentioned.
I guess I'm on heart medication, so I
Okay.
heard that.
Okay. Yeah. Licorice is an excellent herb for the adrenal glands. It's the adrenal glands. That's one herb that will do. I wanted to give you the story of Peter because there's a beautiful illustration that genetic may load the gun, but lifestyle was the trigger. And I have to tell you, even though it was a little bit of work to give the enema, even though it was a little bit of work to do the hot and cold treatments, and it was a bit of work to hide Peter while we ate, and then vice versa, he hasn't had an asthma attack since 2.5. Can you see? It pays off. It absolutely pays off. Yes?
Someone's asking how much plantains do you put to boil?
Well, the rule of thumb is usually, when you're using fresh, so The fresh, you would use probably, I don't know, I just grabbed a heap of leaves. You might do half a cup of the fresh to 2 cups of water, something like that. And if you're doing dry, the rule of thumb is also, so for drying all your dried herbs, it's always 1 teaspoon to 1 cup of water. So I think giving him the plantain tea every time he got a cold. Well, I don't know, my kids get a cold once a month in the winter. I think that contributed majorly to the strengthening of his lungs, yes?
You said you put lemon and something else in it?
Lemon and a little honey, yeah. And again, because I didn't give my kids juice, because I didn't give them cordial, they didn't have soda pops, they love that. But if you've got a child that is used to very sweet things, they will not like that.
Can you add mint to it?
You could add mint, you could add ginger, you could add anything you want to make it taste nice. But plantain is not an unpleasant herb. It's not unpleasant at all.
Is this the plantain that looks like a banana?
No, there is a plantain that's a banana, it's certainly not that. It's actually a weed that just grows on in the garden. And it's got a seed pod that looks like that. That's in the narrow leaf, but in the broad leaf, the seed pod basically looks like that. And these are all little seeds. And did you know that those seeds is what they get psyllium from? The seeds of the plantain.
Psyllium? The seed is from where you get psyllium?
Psyllium. That's where they get it from, is the seeds of,
Yes, why?
yes?
Slippery elm, I just haven't bought it. It's a bark, correct? Or can you get it in
Slippery elm is a powdered bark of the slippery elm tree, and when you get it, it's like a fluffy bark. And when you put water with it, it goes thickish.
So we can just keep watering or.
I don't know where you get it from, I'm Australian, but I guess you just get it from the health food shop, or you might get it from a herb company, something like that. And so when Peter was 7, the naturopath rang me. He said, Barbara, I'm about to give a talk to the Asthma Foundation. And he said, Peter's the worst case I have ever seen. He said, you know more than me now. Did you hear that? How did I learn? Do you know how you learn is by doing? He said, you know more than me now. Tell me what you did. And I told him all the little bits and pieces. I also discovered that if you put a drop of peppermint oil on half a teaspoon of honey and give that to the child, I couldn't do anything with Peter. I'd give that to Peter and he'd go, and then we just sit there. All the other children just think they're dying. But what do you imagine a peppermint does? It just opens those bronchioles. So I told him everything what I did, and then he talked to the Asthma Foundation, and he rang me 2 days later. He said they were a bit hesitant at first, but he says as I talked, they softened up, and I told the story of Peter. He said afterwards a mother came up to me, and this mother was telling me about her little 7-year-old boy. She said it was as if she was describing Peter, severe physiological asthma. This little boy was on cortisone every day. He was on a lot of medication. He was on a glycerin enema every day because the cortisone and the drugs were constipating him, and he'd been given 2 weeks to live. Mm-hmm. And the naturopath said, and look at Peter. When I got off the phone, I sat for a moment quite sombre. And then I looked at Peter. Peter's as strong as an ox. He has got such a strong little body. And Peter now has 3 children, and they don't have asthma. See how you can change the genes? You can change the genes by what you do to your body.
Did the eczema go away?
eczema.
Yeah, did he have eczema?
He did not have eczema,
Okay.
but my little baby sister did. So she had eczema, and often eczema can go into asthma. But again, we've seen many people totally conquer eczema by just dropping these foods.
Wow.
I would have an answering service on my phone. Stop the dairy week. Now, some people are reading that and they don't have eczema, they don't have asthma, they don't have problems. That is true. But if you have any health problem at all, they're the foods that must stop. So what about bronchodilators? I'd like to introduce you to some bronchodilators. And bronchodilators are where the bronchioles dilate or open. So bronchodilators are very important when a person has any respiratory problems. And our body makes some. Now, I have only discovered this in the last 6 months. So when we breathe, we should breathe through our nose, yeah, and breathe out through our nose. And in Genesis 2 verse 7, the Bible says that God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils. They're not too bad. No mouth-to-mouth resuscitation here. He breathed into Adam's nostrils the breath of life, and he became a living soul. Nostrils, not mouth, nostrils. Well, you know now they don't do mouth to mouth. Did you know that? Have you done a first aid course recently? They don't do mouth to mouth.
Oh.
They pump the chest to get it going. So bronchodilators, what's a bronchodilator? Something that opens the bronchioles. When you nose breathe, it balances the blood gases. And 2 blood gases that it balances, which are bronchodilators, is carbon dioxide. And you can Google a name. It's Professor Buteyko. Professor Buteyko is a Russian professor that developed a form of breathing to help people when they're having an asthma attack. And it's a method of breathing that increases the carbon dioxide levels in the blood, because carbon dioxide relaxes the smooth muscle, which is what the bronchioles are surrounded with, and opens the bronchioles. So just Google Buteyko. And there are many hospitals today that sometimes once a month they'll have a Buteyko training class. And he suggests, well, in that class, to take the mouth up. We talked about that earlier. Just a little bit tight underneath the nose into the chin to encourage the nose breathing. But it's a special way of breathing in an asthma attack. It's holding the breath. Getting a little bit of oxygen in, letting a little bit out, holding the breath again. Getting a little bit in and a little bit out, holding the breath again. And by doing that, you're raising carbon dioxide levels, which relax the smooth muscle. This is how my sister finally got off her vent. It's a scary thing when you can't get air. It's such a scary thing. And so many just reached in for that ventilator. But remember what your ventilator was doing to you? Reducing lung capacity. When you're on the lungs, yeah. So carbon dioxide is a bronchodilator. When you breathe through your nose, another gas is released, and this gas is released in the sinus, and it's called nitric oxide. I was reading that one functional doctor, nitric oxide, and when people had COVID and come into hospital, he was spraying into their noses nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a bronchodilator. But when you breathe in and out through your nose, you see, if you breathe in through your nose, yes, you get any nitric oxide, but if you breathe out through your mouth, you lose too much carbon dioxide. So it must be nose. Remember, God breathed into Adam's nostrils. Nose must be nose. And one of the reasons many people become mouth breathers is because the nose is all blocked up. So why is it blocked up? Usually, any of these allergens can cause excess mucus to be in the nose. So when I was in Germany in May, I was in Germany the whole of May, and I was staying in a very old stone house. And it had a fire in it every day, which was lovely, made it warm. But this day, it didn't have a fire going. I thought it was going. I washed my hair and I chilled. And I chilled very much when I got that cold. And I had this cold for 3 weeks. So for 3 weeks, that was painful. Usually I can get over it very, very quickly by lots of garlic and hardly eating anything, all of that sort of stuff, and running up and down mountains. And I found a river that I could dive in every morning, 8 degrees. Oh, that's sorry, no, not Fahrenheit, Celsius. It's 8 degrees in Seoul, I think. I was doing everything I knew, but I was lecturing for 6 hours a day. That probably is what slowed it down. But I really tested myself in that time when I had a cold to still only nose breathe, and you can do it. In fact, one way to clear the nose is to breathe through your nose. Because if you keep that mouth closed, your body's got to get air and it'll make a way. It'll make a way. So when I exercise, I always have a couple of tissues in my pocket. Because, you know, breakfast is breaking fast. You've been on a fast all night, so it's not uncommon that you might cough up a thing or two or blow the nose a little bit as the body does that in the morning clean. So I always have a tissue to keep that nose clear so that I can continue to breathe through my nose. Nose purifies the air, mouth does not. Nose warms the air, mouth does not. Nose moistens the air, mouth does not. Nose pressurizes the air, getting it perfect for the lungs. And nose balances blood gases. Mouth does not do any of that. Now, we're very glad that when we've got a bad cold and it's very blocked up in the middle of the night, that you can breathe through your mouth a little bit. But that should be our last resort. Mouth should be last resort. So these are the bronchodilators. There are some herbs that are bronchodilators. So the herbs that are bronchodilators, which might surprise you, is thyme. It has a bronchodilator effect. When I did my herbal course, this was in that course, we had to look at the herb. We had to find every single active in that herb. Then we had to look at the effect that it has on the body, and I was very surprised to see that thyme has a bronchodilator effect. The other one that does is Lebedia. And Lebedia is also a relaxant. And when someone is having, that's just not right at all, is it? When someone's having an asthma attack or someone is struggling with breathing, it is fairly scary, and so they can be muscle tight. Whereas the Lebedia, it's a relaxant too. And those bronchodilators, carbon dioxide and nitric oxide, one of the ways they work is to relax the muscle around the bronchus, the smooth muscle, to open and have a bronchodilatory effect. So isn't that incredible? You probably heard me say this yesterday. Everything we need is already in our body. Already inside, yes.
So your new book that's coming out, is that going to be kind of like a quick reference guide to be able to kind of look at these things? Is that what that would be?
Will be that. In fact, I got chapter 10 last night, so he's moving through. He's moving through.
That's
And my new book called Sustain Thee is a handbook on natural remedies.
Perfect.
So there's a chapter on the lungs. There's a chapter, in fact, I start at the head. I go through the eyes and the ears and the nose and the sinus, and I go through the whole body.
And what is it that causes you to get sick because you got cold? I thought that was a kind of an old lifestyle, but actually it's a real thing.
Well, it's not always necessarily so. I think that you get a cold when you're ready to get a cold.
Okay.
In fact, you can have 10 people with chill, and not everyone will get a cold.
So it's a trigger to
It
something
can be a
that's.
trigger,
I see.
And I fly a lot, so, you know, every now and then a house clean has to happen.
Gotcha.
That's all I can think, yeah.
Barbara, Miriam online wants to know if to nose breathe even during labor.
Yes, yes, you get more oxygen and more energy. Takes practice, but to be able to do that, you've got to train it. Ladies need to go into training for childbirth, yeah.
Is there anything you can do for pulmonary hypertension?
For pulmonary hypertension. So hypertension is high blood pressure, and pulmonary is connected to the lungs, yeah. That's all I'm thinking. So tomorrow, I guess tomorrow we look at heart health. And when we look at heart health tomorrow, I'll be implementing some things. Or showing you what things you can implement to conquer high blood pressure. But one of the best that just opens those, so that opens the capillaries is cane pepper.
Barbara, Ashley wants to know where she can get your new book, Sustain Me.
Well, yeah, it's not that good. Misty Mountain USA. So we've got a little bit disillusioned with Amazon. So it's going all out through. And also, the other two places that sell my book in the US is Eden Valley Retreat and also Living Springs Retreat. They're all selling the new book. Yeah?
Question, with allergies to food stuff, I get it. What about like grasses and cedar trees and all the
That's a very good point. What about pollen? What about pollen and the cedar trees? And by the way, once you cease these foods, it can take 2 months to see a response. You can eat your slice of bread, it'll be out of your body in 24 hours, but the effect can remain for something like 2 months. So I have seen people with major allergies and hay fever, they've stopped this food, and then they don't have allergies to pollen. One lady said, since I've stopped that food, I don't have a cat allergy anymore. Since I've stopped that food, I don't have a horse allergy anymore. I don't have a dust mite allergy anymore. I don't have... These are lots of different, reports that come back. So again, it's all to do with the food that we're eating. So what happens is the dust or the pollen, it just tips the scales. Just tips the scales on something that was about to be tipped. Yeah.
Do you recommend neti pots?
Do I recommend neti pots? Yeah? And again, whatever helps. So let me show you some specifics for sinus. Because a person can stop these foods, but we've still got the effect of many years of the sinus being in this situation. So I read in one of my reference books that in the 1990s, a group of scientists, doctors in the Mayo Clinic discovered that sinus was due to fungus. So my next question is, well, why is the fungus there? It's because of years and years of allergy creating this excess mucus and damage. And remember, those microorganisms come along, clean up the waste. We had an ear, nose and throat specialist nurse do our program. She said, I attend sinus clean-outs all the time as an ear, nose and throat specialist nurse. She said, you wouldn't believe the green slime that we pull out of sinuses. And she said that all the specialists acknowledge it's fungus. So this is Australia, so she works in Australia. So there's a couple of confirmations. So these must stop. So you might stop that food, but then you've got the remnant of years and years and years of these sinus problems. So that's where the neti pot, which I think is inhaling or spreading somewhere,
Pouring it in.
pouring it in. So a few things to clear out the sinus. Now, forgive me if I spell it wrong. Is that how you spell it? Neti pot?
N-E-T-I.
N-E-T-T-I.
Just one tea, one or two.
Okay. And the best thing to use is salt water, and to make salt water, you must have the salt that has all the minerals, which is Celtic salt, and that's 1 teaspoon of Celtic salt to 1 cup of water. And if you do that, you will create the exact same mix that you find in the sea. So that's your salt water mix. Another is inhaling steam. So you can have a bowl of boiling water. And with the bowl of boiling water, you can put a drop of eucalyptus oil in it. And then you put a towel over your head and just breathe that in through the nose. But, and again, in eucalyptus, oil can really help clear it out, but you must finish, this is where most people make the mistake, you must finish with a 30-second cold water. So what you can do is you can go over to the sink and just wash cold water onto your face for 30 seconds, or you can have a bowl of cold water with ice cubes in it ideally, and wipe it over, but it must be full 30 seconds. So if you've got a bowl of water with cold water with ice cubes in it, you might have 2 face cloths in there. Like one, it'll get hot straight away, get the other one, and you just keep doing that till you come up to 30 seconds. Most people do the inhaling of steam, just wipe their face with a cloth, a dry cloth, and then you watch, within 15 minutes, it's clogged up. Because what the cold does is it equalises the circulation, prevents chill, seals the air.
How long do you have to inhale the steam for?
Well, it usually takes about maybe 7 to 10 minutes before it's just not steamy anymore. That's fast. And then sniff golden seal powder. Golden seal is called king of tonics to all mucous membranes. This is very expensive herb, the golden seal. Can't even get it in Australia at the moment. You can't get it in Europe at the moment. The only place you can get it at the moment is the USA. So every time I go home, I take 2 pounds with me, which and in Australia they're really fussy. So I have to declare it. We can have big fines. So they say, and in Australia, in Sydney, the plane can only fly. So no plane can come in between 6 p.m., I'd say 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
You don't even get one in the world like that. So when you fly in at 6 a.m., guess what? 10 other planes flying at 6 a.m. in the morning. So it's just people everywhere, and they're pushing you through as quickly as possible. So a guy in the airport says, "Oh, what are you doing with the herb?" I said, "Oh, I'm making herb tea, so I'm gathering it." So that's how it goes.
If you had golden seal oil, essential oil.
If you can get golden seal essential oil, I'm not sure how you do that. We have to sniff the liquid, but we couldn't sniff it straight. But the powder's great because the powder goes right up into the sinuses.
How do you sniff it?
How do you sniff it? Well, you can put it on the plate next door.
Is there a certain amount?
And I'll reveal in my class.
Is it correct? Root powder? It says golden seal root powder. Is that the same thing?
That's right, root powder.
About how much would you suggest?
How much? Oh, a pinch, maybe the tiniest little bit. It's very expensive, but you don't need much.
It doesn't have to be organic or anything.
Yeah, you just get what you can. Obviously, organic's good, but golden seal is a tiny little root, it's tiny little threads of root, and it takes 7 years before you can harvest it. And apparently it grows under pine trees, and like, I think that's why it's so expensive, and it's why in many countries you can't even get it. But it's just an amazing herb. It's king of tonics for all mucous membranes, and our head is lined with these mucous membranes in the tubes. And it's also antifungal, antibacterial, it's anti-staphylococci. You can hardly get a drug that will kill anti-staph. It's anti-staph, so it's a remarkable herb.
So you're suggesting doing this whole regimen?
Well, you do what you
Sinus
can.
infection?
Not everyone can, do it all. It might not be possible to do the neti pot. You might not want to do the neti pot. It's just, you just do what you can. So I'll tell you the story of the lady that came to our retreat. She was 32. She was carrying probably about 30 pounds excess weight. She used to get terrible headache. She was on headache medication every single day because of bad sinus. Often clogged up bad sinus can cause me headache. And she was miserable. She ate terribly because she was too miserable to cook food, so she just grabbed bread and cereal and coffee. So of course at our retreat, we don't serve any of this. And there's no chemicals or molds. And we got her to start sniffing the golden seal powder, just a little bit, tiny little bit into each nostril. And she was doing it 3 times a day. She said, excuse the expression, but it's like I'm blowing green barley out of my nose. It was really cleaning it out very nicely. Anyway, she was very happy to know what she could do. When she went home, she had no more headaches. The nose was still a little clogged, but it was much better than it was. So 2 years later, this lady came in, but she was smartly dressed. I smiled, I said, welcome. She said, you don't recognize me, do you? I said, I'm trying. It was this same lady. She lost all the weight. She said, I have not had one headache or one sinus pain since I left here 2 years ago. She said, that's unbelievable, the turnaround that I got. She said that her mother was really concerned. She reckoned she was losing too much weight, so she made her go to the doctor and have blood tests. And the doctor said, this is the best blood test I've ever seen. Keep doing what you're doing. And it's so simple, but it takes a little bit of time. When you go to a retreat like she did, you do a couple of days on Tuesdays and it's all there. She got turned around. She was not better when she left, but she was getting results. What she had to do was go home and change some of her habits under the conditions, and she continued with the golden seal. Hank, how long do you do the golden seal for? Who'll tell you? Your body will tell you. That's right. Your body will tell you. And so she had a very impressive turnaround. Once she's better, she probably can find she can have a bit of this food now and then. That's why your body will tell you. I eat wheat, but not much. Because when I'm traveling, sometimes that's all you can get. But it doesn't react on me, but I'm sure if I ate it 3 times a day, I might. So that's why you're the doctor. You're the one that indicates to you how long you do it for. And when you do it. So that's one of the assisting. What about the chest? What about the chest? What can you do to help clear the chest? You can do a castor oil compress. Castor oil penetrates deeper than any other oil. And the beauty of the compress, as you will see in my demo, the castor oil compress allows the castor oil to penetrate very, very deep into the body. And wherever castor oil penetrates, it breaks up lumps, bumps, adhesions. So it helps to loosen that chest. Yes,
Would that be effective for pneumonia?
yes, yeah. There are a few things that you can do for the cold, but our time is about up. And when we look at the poultice lecture, we're going to cover it in more detail there. So I'll just mention them briefly. There's sliced onion on the bottom of the feet, and I'll show you how to do that. There's also what we call the flu bomb, and I'll give you the recipe in the poultice lecture, and that is garlic and ginger and eucalyptus oil, cayenne pepper, honey and lemon. And also I'll be showing you how to make the onion and honey cough mix. So there's a few things that we'll cover in that. But now we're going to have a break. Then we can go, oh, it was like the rain has stopped. Obviously, there's a little there. So we're going to have a break now, and we're going to come back at 10:30. And when we come back at 10:30, we're going to look at child nutrition.